10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3.
Hello, my friends in Sasquatch Land. And yet again, another Tuesday night, and yet again, Discover Sasquatch is on the air. Welcome to one and all. I'd like to say a big welcome to Mr. Chuck Gonzalez. He's in the chat tonight. Hello, Blue-Eyed Northern. Hello, Boots on the Ground with Barb. Who else we got in here? Hey, BF Bud is in the house. We have a really great show with you guys all tonight. You know, a lot of you know Spencer. He's part of the Beast Boys, LBL crew. Very knowledgeable man of the subject of Sasquatch. Has a lot of the same. I'm sorry, I'm trying to read and shuffle everything through at the same time. But he's very knowledgeable, and I'm very excited to have him on the show tonight. Hello, Diane Fowler's in the house. So hello to all. I just want to say one thing before we move on. I'd like you guys all to go on over to Elusive Hair. My friend, she does a great job in making T-shirts and novelties, and she sent this to us for nothing. And I have tons of her stuff. And go on over to the Elusive Hair and get some merch. Pretty soon, the store will be opening up on our website, and we're going to have shirts and stuff like that. And it will all go towards research investigation equipment. All right, so let's get the show on the road and bring out our friend, Mr. Spencer Jamison. Hello, my friend. How are you? I'm doing very well. Looks like the weather's pretty nice down there. You got on the wraparound porch and sitting out in the sunshine.
Yeah, well, it's going down right now. It's going down behind me. So right back there, the sun's going down. But yeah, it was pretty nice out today. How's the weather up there?
We got rain going on here right now, so yeah. It's that's what we usually get in New England during the summertime. We'll get the hot, humid day, and then it'll rain at night for a little while, and then just like Florida, I guess.
Yeah,
we'll get that for a little while, but for a couple months. So how things been? We haven't talked in quite a while, and how things going down your way? What are you up?
Pretty good. As far as I can tell, like in my neck of the woods, this isn't really the active time for anything boogering. But other than that, you know, my workload is picking up, so I'm staying busy. And I got some camping in at Uwharrie National Forest in North Carolina about 2 weeks ago. Me and my one friend, Anthony, he goes out with me from time to time. But, you know, just busy right now. Looking forward to it cooling off. That's whenever I think stuff happens a little bit more prominently around here. And that's whenever I tend to, you know, have more time to go out and hit the woods and everything. So right now is the beginning of the busy season for me, and waiting for a few months from now whenever it cools off.
Nice. So what do you got for plans? What do you got coming up? Who are you going to be hanging out with? What's your plan? What are you going to do for investigating?
This year, I'd really like to hit either northern Georgia or northern Alabama. I got a couple things in the works, probably leaning towards Alabama. I'll definitely make another trip to LBL at some point. I'll probably go back to Daniel Boone National Forest at some point. And I might possibly be going back to North Carolina within the next month or two, because I haven't been down there in the summer yet. So I'm not quite sure what that holds as far as the summer goes. And I found a couple spots, got some inside tips from some guys that are in the woods down there quite a bit, and got some inside tips for a few locations around Uwari. So I'm probably going to go check that out. If I don't go there, I will be going to like Pisgah or Cherokee National Forest within the next couple months, but it'll be brief. It'll only be like a 3-day thing.
Right. No, so that leads us to the topic tonight, and that's why this is an important show. It's all about boots on the ground tonight. How important that is to the investigating, to the community, to everything. And Spencer's one of the guys that's got the boots on the ground. He's traveling, he's going, he's getting the inside information. He's looking in the cracks and crevices for anything that he can get to sink his teeth into, and he pursues it. And he pursues it by traveling to it. He pursues it by phone calls, and it's a lot of work. And I think it's a great topic that we should discuss tonight. And I think you're one of the best guys that does it out there, and that's why you're here tonight. So I applaud you for all the work that you put into it, because it takes a lot of work to do this, plus work full-time job, plus have family, plus all that. I mean, it's a lot of work, and definitely applaud you for what you do.
Oh, thanks. I got to say, well, first of all, let me say hi to everybody that's in chat. Uh, it's a lot of you are people that I know and recognize and talk to and everything. So how is everybody doing tonight? I also have to say that, a lot of the way I got into the subject was I was lucky enough to actually make contact with some people that are pretty well known in the field, and then they invited me out. So a lot of what I know and what I've gathered and everything is based off of stuff that they've told me, that they've let me have access to and whatnot. And in my opinion, first of all, I think that the people that actually do know a lot of the inside stuff on this subject, there are no experts. I'm not saying that, but the people that actually go out there and have spent a large amount of time in this area learning a lot of things that they've theorized about and they've tested and everything. They're hard to get to open up and to tell you what they know, because it costs them a lot of time and effort and money and energy and all that kind of stuff. And you've got to show that you're willing to go through all that yourself, and then they'll give you little tidbits or whatnot. So a lot of the stuff that I've been privy to is only, by God's grace, that some of these people are my friends and I've gotten to know them over the years, and they've taken me to some really good spots, and they've pointed a lot of stuff out. I mean, it's not like I'm a genius on any of this kind of stuff. In fact, I grew up hunting and fishing and camping and teaching wilderness survival and training in a lot of wilderness survival stuff and other stuff out in the woods. And whenever I first started paying attention to the subject, I was one of the people that was like, man, I'd have seen something by now. I'd have found something to make it more impressive or realistic to me. And then the more I talk to people, and I'm not scared to like reach out and message somebody or talk to somebody on the phone, I'll go out of my way if I think somebody knows something. I just want to know myself, and I'll talk to them and ask them and everything. And then I try to go to that spot and, examine it for myself and come to my own conclusions. But at first, I wasn't really convinced about all this. I mean, I had an open mind about it, but I wasn't convinced. And then, luckily I got invited to a Bigfoot Outlaws outing. It was kind of a private thing. They let me come. I was pretty much the only outsider there, and had a lot of experiences that was really eye-opening. That taught me a lot right there. And I got in good with Mark and Larry and Eric and Kane. And, just kind of went from there. I've met more people along the way, and I've been, I've been one of the people that is willing to, whenever they call and say, hey, do you want to go out in the woods and hike in a couple miles and take a pack and, go stay for a few nights, and it's just a handful of us or whatnot, or just a couple of us, I'm one of the people that signs up for that, and I go do it. And because of that, I think, I've had a lot of luck as far as uh, learning a lot of inside stuff, and a lot of luck as far as having what I consider to be some legitimate experiences and everything. And like you were saying, I don't think you can overstate how important it is to get off the couch, get in the woods, and actually look for yourself. I mean, that's where the answers are.
Get in the woods.
Yeah.
No, you're 100% right. You're 100% right. Let's backtrack a little bit. When you first started, and you're out with these guys, and a lot of people, the people that you just mentioned, a lot of people look up to these guys for information. I mean, these guys know what they're talking about when they're talking boogers, Sasquatch, whatever you guys want to call them. When you first started, and say you were out on your own for, and then you would meet up with these guys, when did you start putting the pieces together and then realizing that you were finding the same stuff that they were finding while you're in the field?
So for the first year or so getting into this, and I just stumbled into this field. It's not like I had an experience and then I went out looking for them. I homeschool, and I was teaching my kids whenever they were very young. This was, I guess, a little over 5 years ago, maybe 6, something like that, close to that. And they had been watching YouTube, and I had it on mute or whatever. And I was doing a school lesson for them. Back then, it was really quick and easy. Now it's not. And one of the videos that came up whenever they were done, like the TV was still on, I looked up, and I think it was the MK Davis video of, like, it was the breakdown of Patty walking, where he was talking about how you could see the like the scapula muscle moving and the hematoma on the leg and everything. And I remember looking at it going, because I had seen that video whenever I was a kid. I mean, I had seen the original on whatever TV show whenever I was a kid. And I remember looking at it going, that's really weird. It looks right. It looks like something biological. And then the next day, I guess because that had played or whatnot, the next day, Bigfoot Outlaws video came on. And I remember Barry yelling, what the hell is that? Or whatever. I looked up at the TV. It was Bigfoot Outlaws episode. I started watching it. So then I kind of binge watched a whole lot of the Bigfoot Outlaws and some other stuff, some Sasquatch Chronicles and stuff like that for a couple months. And me, coming from, growing up in the woods and everything, I'm looking at all this stuff. And I'm like, man, I would have seen some of this. I would have noticed some of this or whatnot. And then I don't know what made me do it, but then, shortly thereafter, another couple months into it, I decided to go hit the national forest near me and look around. I was actually looking for mushrooms, but I was paying attention to this stuff, and I started finding some things that could possibly be considered stick structures. I remember thinking, that looks real similar to what they're talking about. Don't know if it is or not. So then I would go home and I would like study and watch some more videos and whatnot, and try to brush up on my tracking skills. I'm not a good tracker. And before long, I had found quite a few things that could be structure. I had found some possible tracks, but I think, like a lot of people, you second guess yourself. You start going, is this real? Is this really what I'm finding? Am I just trying to read too much into it or whatnot? So nothing was set in stone until I went to that Bigfoot Outlaws gathering thing, and then we had some pretty good experiences there. And I'm gonna tell you what, on the way driving down there, I was in my head over and over again. I was going, what are you doing? Because it was like a 7-hour drive. And I was like, this is probably crazy. This is probably going to be nothing. And driving home, I mean, that 7-hour drive went by like it was 30 minutes, because just in my head, I just kept going over all the stuff that had happened. I was like, there's just no way. I mean, there's no way that that is coincidence, or that all that stuff happens. Like for example, like tree breaks. In that one weekend, in that 3 days, there was probably, I don't even know, 13, 14 um, tree breaks, and or trees actually being pushed over. And I mean, again, I've been in the woods my whole life. And I mean, before that weekend, I bet I could count on one hand how many times I'd heard a tree fall over in the middle of the woods, you know? I mean, it's stuff like that that makes you sit back and go, no, there's way more to it. But then we had some stuff actually happen while I was there. But that's pretty much how I got into it. And ever since then, you know, I've gone out predominantly with the same people over and over again, and like to think that I've gained their trust a little bit, and you know, seen a lot of stuff and done a lot of stuff in between now and then. Hadn't had a full-on sighting yet, but you know.
It's on its way. I'm sure it's on its way. So we were talking about this a little earlier, like when you said you just started and you started back with the Outlaws and the camp out and everything. There were if you went to YouTube, there was, I couldn't even count how many channels. You know, there was people out there in the woods everywhere. Now, 7, 8 years later down the road, you got a handful of people that are doing it the same way, still doing it the same way as before. And all these other people that got all this information have been pushed to the back.
Yeah.
We talked about that for an extent earlier today. And why don't you tell everybody what your thoughts on why are these guys that have all this information that we could learn and share from, why are they hanging back now?
All right. I think, like, my biggest influences in this field would have to be Mark and Larry, Shelly and Debbie, part of Sisters of the Moon, Eric and Kane, Cheryl Corntassel, handful of other people, you know, that have really taken me in and showed me a lot of in-depth stuff, and you know, told me their personal theories on a lot of this stuff. And to borrow a line from Eric Tipton and Kane, I think it's the wow factor. I think that I made a post the other day where I said probably 75% of the people that are in the Bigfoot community are mostly here for entertainment. They don't really go out. They watch the videos. They listen to the podcasts. You know, they may watch some of the TV shows, you know, Finding Bigfoot or Killing Bigfoot, all that kind of stuff. But they're not really going out. So you have a large portion of the community that is here for entertainment purposes. Whenever they're here for entertainment purposes, and this is just my theory, this is just the way that I view it, they want the wow factor. They want to see the next video that could possibly show a Bigfoot. They want to hear the podcast where, you know, Bigfoot was banging on the cabin and was getting ready to eat the person or whatnot. And I think that the reality is, at least in my experience, in my opinion, is that whenever there's actually boogers around, you don't question, you know, that there's something there. It's a very real thing. You can feel it. It's tangible. Not trying to get into the woo part of it, but you can feel it. It's like somebody hits a light switch. It's there. It's palpable in the air. And most people just want the wow factor. So for most of us that actually go out in the woods and dedicate a large amount of time and energy and money to finding these things, you know, it's very hard. I mean, I can't speak for anybody else, but for me, I mean, it might be one every 20 times that I actually like go on an outing kind of thing, that something happens where I'm like, yeah, that's boogerish, right? So, I mean, if you're being honest and real about it, you know, a couple times a year, you might get some significant interaction that's worthy of like sharing with everybody and everything. So those of us that really do it, we don't present a lot of the wow factor because it's rare. You don't get it that much. I mean, again, I've been actively looking with some of the best people in the community for 5+ years. I've never seen one. Not a full on. I mean, I've had glimpses of stuff that I thought might be something, but I've never had the full on sighting. So, you know, that's 5+ years where, I mean, if I were to get on there and post about it every week, I mean, I could fluff it up and say, "Oh, I think I heard, you know, a knock. I think that this might be a structure. I think that I found a track, you know, and come up with all this stuff just enough to have something to talk about." But the real people that actually do invest a lot of the work, man, it's time coming through topographical maps and looking at the areas ahead of time. A lot of time on the computer, you know, trying to break down where's the good spot to go in at, and looking at, you know, where confluences of creeks and rivers and all that kind of stuff. And then I think on top of that, if you're being really legit about it, a lot of these people that are 100% the genuine article, like you know, you find a lot of stuff that very well could be presentable, that you could make like a video about, or you could talk about, or make a Facebook posting about. But a lot of times you don't, because it's like, yeah, you know, it could be something, but I'm waiting for the real deal thing where you catch it on the GoPro, or where you get audio that is undeniable, or where you find, you know, stick manipulation in the woods where you're like 100% this is not natural. It's been manipulated by something. Didn't see what did it, but it's been manipulated by something. You know, so I think a lot of the people that are the serious researchers in this stuff, you know, it's a blend of they're they're careful with what they put out there, and to a degree they really do have to be, because so much stuff is stolen and copied nowadays. So much stuff is, you know, it's picked apart by that 75% of the people that never get in the woods. They're like, "Oh, that can't be Bigfoot. That's not what a Bigfoot looks like." You know, Bigfoot, oh, their heel on their track is supposed to be square. Oh, I don't see a mid tarsal break. Oh, you know, you should have smelled something. You didn't say anything about the smell. You know, it's these people that, I mean, for lack of, you know, a better way to describe it, they don't really know anything, but they will bash anybody in the community that does put out something that they think is legit. And there's not that much legit stuff, in my opinion, that's out there. I think a lot of it is crap, and people are geared towards the entertainment thing, and they will watch channels and subscribe to pages that constantly have the wow factor going. You know, every week there's something new on these pages. Every week these people have found, you know, more proof that Bigfoot is there. And I think that's what gets a lot of the people to watch. And those of us that actually do it for real, we're careful about what we put out. And if you're being honest, you don't come across it all the time, in my experience.
Well, I agree with you 100%. When I first started, and I won't lie, that's what I did. I was taking a hike through the woods, making a video, 2 videos a week maybe, when I first started, and I wasn't showing anything but the same me walking through the forest. It took a little time for me to get into that groove and realize what was going on. And you're exactly right. Now it's just like you put out a video, I don't know, once every 6 months, maybe once every 5 months, or even if you want to just do a video, you could backtrack and find some old footage and put it out, or something like that you find interesting. But everybody that's got the boots on the ground now, they're trying to introduce new topics, new ways of investigating, new subjects. Not to say, well, yeah, trying different stuff. And once they present that, they get hammered on. The
Yeah.
people hammer on these guys, and I'm one of them. I believe me, I've gotten some comments on my page that are I wouldn't even want to repeat with the meter thing that we got going on now. Number one, we have never said that a Sasquatch uses the meter or is making the something. All we're saying is that when they're there throwing stones at us, these meters are going off the charts. That's all we're saying. You know, I mean, and that's something new, and that's something exciting. You know, I get asked to do interviews again. I said, everybody's already heard my story. Everybody in the community probably heard my stories 100 times. I don't have anything new for anybody. And that's why I did the podcasting, to meet people like yourself and Larry and Mark and everybody and BF Bud and everybody that's in the chat, all new people, and learn and get new ideas. And that's the only reason why I'm doing the podcast. And so I agree with you 100%. It's the wow factor, the entertainment. They'll get behind those guys they'll give them 3 videos a week and showing those muddy, blurry pictures of something sitting in the woods and all that stuff. And I mean, to each their own. And, you know, and I'm not the world's greatest Sasquatch. I don't know how you would say it, but to each their own. And but I think people need to start getting behind these guys that are boots on the ground and start seeing behind the scenes what's going on, and, you know, doing a little research themselves to see who's out there in the fields and who's trying to get the job done.
You know, man, it's a loaded subject, and what you just said is right in my opinion too. You know, like I've never once been to a Bigfoot conference, because all of the people, to me, that are talking at these conferences, it's like they're always the same people going to all these conferences, and sometimes you'll see them on a TV show or whatnot, but it's like, what is new? I mean, what have you presented? What have you shown? How are we learning as a community, I guess, is my thing. You know, like, if you got a video of a booger walking right across like a field in broad daylight, right? What did you really learn from that? What did it do to help the subject? I mean, again, it's wow factor. It's good information. You can learn stuff about the way that it moves, you know, its overall body shape, you know, stuff like that, physical qualities. But what did you learn? Did you learn where it was going, where it was coming from, what it was eating, where it stays? You know, did you learn what kind of structure or sign that it may or may not make? You know what I'm saying? If one got hit by a truck, like Kane Michael is fond of saying, you know, once it's there and it's laying there on the ground, yeah, you could learn a lot about the physical specimen, but you still don't know anything about their habits, their social structure, the way that they work. You know, like, I know that they're out there. How do they remain hidden as well as they do? Why is there so little, you know, really high quality pictures and videos of them? You know, we're still guessing about tree bows and breaks and X's and all that kind of stuff. Good chance that they do it, but, you know, to my knowledge, nobody's got video of one making them like a tree bow or a X or whatnot. So what have you really done? What have you gained knowledge wise on the subject? Like, I'm a admin on one of the Facebook pages, on the Beast page, and, you know, I see people post stuff all the time, and it's like, I want to comment. Most of the time I don't, because I want people to look at it and make up their own mind and everything. But I don't want to be the one putting my thumb on the scale saying, oh, you shouldn't look at this, it's garbage or whatnot. You know, look at it and decide for yourself. But the truth is, like, if you're not furthering the subject, if you're not out there collecting information that may be useful, if you find scat, if you record them and you can look at it on the spectrograph and say that's definitely not a local animal, you know, if you can narrow down that that's a unknown animal, if you find hair, if you know, Lord knows if you actually saw one hunting, you know, killing a deer, killing a coyote, going fishing, whatever. Those things are things that could really come into play. If you have one that is, or a couple that are constantly giving you interaction by like moving, say you put out colored stones on a log or on a stump, and you have one that's constantly coming up moving the red stone, you know, are you notating that? Hey, they might be attracted to the color red. They're always messing with the redstone. Stuff like that is valuable information that could actually further the subject. Pictures of them, I mean, that's great for the people that want to see. I mean, I want to see them. You know, I want to lay eyes on one. But what does that do to further the subject, to actually teach you more about them? And to me, it doesn't do much. And there's very little information out there that is really dependable and really teaches you stuff on the subject. And more people want the wow factor. I think that the podcasts are a great thing because it allows us to bounce ideas off of each other, and the people that are listening can get a feel for where we're coming from, and maybe we introduce something that they've never thought of before, like the RF meter. I was listening to a podcast, I think it was Bigfoot Odyssey, that you were on, and I remember messaging you and going, hey, what kind of RF meter do you have and how are you using it? You know, and that was a year ago or something like that, maybe a little bit longer. And now, see, stuff like that, you presented some information that we could actually use, that we could actually do something with. Maybe, possibly, the RF meter actually, you know, can tell you that something is here. I mean, I'm still messing with it myself. Haven't had anything 1000% conclusive on it. But again, it's in a subject that's as tired as this one. Every new thing that actually can help further our knowledge of them is worth looking into. And to me, that's what people need to be doing. And there are very few people that do it.
Yeah, it could be absolutely nothing. I mean, Chris Connor is the one that brought this up about the RF meter because he did a lot of high strangeness happens in the Sasquatch areas. You're in their areas, people see the orbs, people see all those. You get EVPs, you get this and that. That's
Yeah.
high strangeness. I mean, are they attracted to those areas? Are they, when they come in, does those areas intensify energy level, vibration level? I mean, there's so much you can just take that topic and go with just to
Well,
try it out. It's something new. It's a breath of fresh air. You know, try it out, and you get what you get. But the hardest part is you got to get them within 30 feet and have them throwing stones at you to get that meter to top out like we were getting. And I mean, that's the hard part.
well, you know, first of all, number one on what you're saying is, you know, you have to be willing to take a chance on something new. You got to spend the money on it. Then you've got to actually be out there in the woods to test it out and see if you get any results, you know? And then if you're lucky and you happen to be in their area, they're nearby, maybe you do, you know, get a little information, you know, by using the new thing and testing it out and whatnot. But, you know, going back to what you were saying just a moment ago, in the Bigfoot world, you know, there's like a dividing line between the people that believe in the woo and the people that are like, no, they're completely physical. I try to keep an open mind about all of it. Now, I'm firmly in the camp that if you approach this subject from the woo point of view, I think you're going to come away, this is just my opinion, I think you're going to come away with a lot of questions and possibilities because you're introducing the whole, hey, they can do all of this mystical, magical stuff. And we have no way of narrowing that down. Like scientifically, there is no, can't think of the word for it, but the you know, there's no baseline thing. You know what I mean? If you approach it from a physical point of view, that they are physical, you can nail down certain parameters, I think. So my point is that I think though that I've seen enough to go, there's a lot of weird stuff involved with this subject. And I don't think you can be firmly in one camp or the other. I think you have to walk the line in between the two and keep an open mind, because there's just so much weird stuff, high strangeness that does happen on this subject, that if you're purely in the camp that says these are physical, you're going to overlook a lot of that stuff. If you're completely in the woo camp, you might overlook a very simple thing like, like how do they hide so well? Is it because they can cloak? Is it because they can go into other portals? If you come from the woo point of view, you might be inclined to think that and then just not look any further. If you come from the physical point of view, you might overlook, for example, if they can use infrasound, is it possible that they can, jiggle your brain and in some way, shape, or form make it so that you can't physically see them, or maybe whenever you do, it's blurry or it's misunderstood. Maybe your brain doesn't process it properly. I mean, I don't know. I think it's best to keep an open mind on all of this stuff and not be entrenched in one mindset or the other.
All right. The only way to figure it all out and get your own data is, again, to be in the woods.
Yep.
To be trying the new stuff, to be trying, come up with your own ideas. Nothing's crazy in this field. If you can go out there and you can try and prove it, to me, I applaud you. I don't even care if it was you're proving that a pigeon's their pet. They have pet pigeons. When you're out there trying to catch their pigeons or get a Sasquatch hair off their wing or whatever, just an example. I applaud them for doing that, because you know what? That's new. They're trying something different. They have their own theories, their own ideologies, and they're out there trying to get it done. And I think, everybody should have their own ideas and do what they want. Like Carrie and Mark are doing down in Florida now. They came up with this idea about, the tech with the camera and the lighting and this and that. And they just got this picture that, have you seen that picture of Bruce Banner yet? That they just got? Yeah. Amazing. I mean, that looks like the Incredible Hulk to me. And that's a great picture. But they're trying something new. That's new. That nobody else has those lenses. Nobody's using those lenses. I mean, we can't all afford them lenses. Yeah. But it's a great setup, and they're trying something new. And Mark and Larry, they're always trying something new. And all the guys, and Kane and all them, you guys are going backpacking in for 5 days. You're not doing the same old thing. They know how to track them, because I just watched the specials, and on it was an awesome show. What was that? Who just did that?
Pathway, or man, what is it called? Trackways?
Yeah, that was an awesome documentary. They did a great job with that. And just watching that, you can learn a ton. If you can learn how to follow these guys through the woods, because it ain't that hard. They leave signs. If you know what to look for, and then you can follow them, and you'll get stuff. You get, what we're finding out now is that these guys, I got one area that they whistle at us all the time now, but they're whistling more than I'm bringing women out with us. And I never had women coming out, and our group is growing a little bit. We have 2 young ladies on our team. They're in their 20s, but now there's one that's coming around, and he's whistling at them all the time now. And that's pretty neat.
That's like Sisters of the Moon. If you're not keeping up with Sisters of the Moon, you're missing out, in my opinion, on vital information, because these ladies are going to some remote areas. I mean, they're brave. They're way braver than a lot of guys that I know. I mean, a lot.
They're going to crazy areas.
Yeah. And they're going out to these areas, and they're getting, Debbie Jones has some of the most impressive audio I've ever heard. And I mean, they're live streaming and having stuff hit the side of the tent and stuff being thrown at them and everything. And see, again, going back to what is like legit information and what can be used to further this, they're getting it. Kane and Eric, I don't think I'm giving anything away by saying this, because they've kind of talked about this a little bit here lately, but like on structures, are you looking at the structures? Are you looking at them in the daytime and at nighttime? Is it possible that moonlight is showing something different on the structure? Are you, measuring stuff? Are you checking the direction of them? Are you looking to see if these structures are around plant sources? I mean, there's a lot of stuff out there that many of us in the field, you know, this is where I have a real advantage, because a lot of the stuff, you know, I wouldn't think of on my own. I mean, it's only because, you know, they've pointed out some of this stuff to me. But there's a lot that can go into this. It's as much as you want to dive in that rabbit hole and what you want to read into it. But in the end, in my opinion, it's going to come down to more and more dirt time, boots on the ground, and how willing you are to constantly get out there and actually make an effort to really understand this stuff and approach it from all kinds of different angles that you haven't thought of before, that other people haven't thought of before. You know, I mean, like, people go out and they put out peanut butter and candy bars, you know, for all we know, you know, liver pate could be the biggest, you know, booger bait in the world. And we don't know it because nobody's gone out and paid, you know, $25 for a couple ounces of foie gras and set it out in the middle of the woods on a stump. We don't know. You have to kind of approach it from that point of view, in my opinion. You know, it's all about the effort. It's all about the willpower that you put into this.
Yeah, people need to get behind these people. You got to find your find your favorite investigator, get behind them. You know, even if you could chuck them $5 or chuck them $10, that goes a long way. Just like you said, you can go out and buy something at the grocery store that you wouldn't normally buy for them. I mean, I found out that these guys don't like green apples. We had green apples sitting in a tree for 2 months and rot away. Not one deer came in and ate those apples in this area. Nothing came in and ate those apples. They just sat in the tree and rotted. But we brought red apples for the following weeks after, and all the red apples were taken every week.
Yeah. See, that's highly useful.
Right. And it's expensive. I mean, the food, and I'm not, it's just not about the money. It's just, I guess I'm more talking, get behind an investigator, get behind the people that are out in the woods and are doing this 2-3 times a week. I mean, that's a lot. It's a lot. If you can't do it full time, there's not too many people that can get 40 hours a week in doing this, but there are people that are out there 2 to 3 times a week. Get behind them, learn from them. You know, if you got ideas, email them. If you got a spot that you think like that's near West Virginia, say Spencer's down there, get a hold of Spencer. Say, hey, Spencer, we were hiking near this cave and we found these bones and we heard this moaning deep in back of the cave. Get a hold of those investigators. Get a hold of the boots on the ground guys, because this is where we're going to make the strides. This is where we're going to make those. We might not see it in our lifetime, but this is where it needs to start. It needs to start with the boots on the ground people. Get behind them, tip them off, help them out, do whatever you can. And I think we're going to make some huge strides. I think it's coming. I think within the next 5 years, we're going to make some big progress. And I mean, again, this is just my opinion, and I could be totally wrong, but this is the way I feel, and it's an important subject.
Well, I think that, like, if you consider, for example, and I mean no harm, I'm not trying to imply anything negative to anybody, but if you consider, like, for example, you know, Sasquatch Chronicles probably has like one of the biggest followings on this subject, you know, and he's talking to people and he's recounting stories that other people have passed on to him or whatnot. There's nothing wrong with that. I'm not complaining about that. I've listened to my fair share of Wes's stories. But if you stop and put into perspective, like what you just were saying, all of the people that, you know, subscribe to him or donate to him, or I don't even know if he has like a Patreon or whatnot, but all of the people that are throwing money to him, if you took the amount of money that he gets, and maybe not necessarily just from donations, but I mean, it could be something as simple as like how many people actually watch your channel right now, you know, because the more people you get that are watching and liking, subscribing, commenting, it kicks a little bit of money your way. I mean, it's not much, but it's a little bit, right?
Right.
If you took all of the income that was brought in by like Sasquatch Chronicles, and all at once you were like, hey, I've got 25 grand to go out and load up on certain type of equipment. You know, maybe you could possibly afford to have like a LiDAR, you know, which is a tool that's extremely expensive, but, you know, may very well be the answer to all this stuff. again, no harm, no foul. I'm not saying anything negative about what people do with their own money or anything like that, or watching certain channels. I'm simply saying that as a community, if we all got behind the people like you and like a handful of others that were actually going out in the woods, and you could be afforded the luxury of having like some of the best high-end equipment, or to experiment with some stuff that maybe we can't financially afford on our own, who knows what the results would be, you know? I mean, but we're spread kind of all over the place. And a lot of these gadgets and tools that I would like to try anyway, they're relatively expensive. I mean, my thermal was $2,000, That's a lot of money to throw into a hobby, on top of me driving 10, 12 hours away and everything to spend a couple days in the woods with it. It's a lot of money. It
Yeah.
takes a lot of dedication to do this stuff.
Yeah, no, I agree with you. Flying, it's $500 flying, and then you're in a hotel a couple days, and it's another $500. You're already over $1,000 just getting there,
Yeah.
and you got to get back, and then you got to eat while you're out, and you're all over the place. And it would be cool. What would be cool? It would be like a community Bigfoot bank, where you could donate. Say you could donate the lidar,
Yeah.
so a certain group can apply for it. Can I get it July through a weekend in July? Can we get that lidar sent to us for us to use and then send it back? That would be kind of like a library system with a card. I think that would be pretty cool. That way everybody could get a shot at using everything, and not one person would have to donate it to somebody. You know what I mean? But
Yeah. I mean, if the community had, $75,000 where everybody could vote on and say, okay, we're going to get this DNA technician. We're going to hire them privately and say, here's 20 samples of possible hair or whatever collected from all across the country. Can you compare all of these samples? And now, I mean, I know that uh, DNA genetic coding and everything is expensive. I don't know if 75 grand would cover this, but if you could get your own technician scientist to actually look at the individual DNA and break it down and say, okay, all 20 of these have a similar, or had the same type of DNA, or whatever way you would phrase it, and they're all anomalous. None of them are known animals. Can you imagine how much we could learn if we had a definitive, okay, this is Bigfoot hair? All 20 of these from around the country. Could we look at them and see, are they partially transparent? Do they have the core inside the follicle, or whatever it is? I mean, there's no end to what we could do if something like that was arranged. But again, most people they're in it for the wow factor. So I think it's a uphill battle, because if you're being honest, it's hard to produce the wow factor all the time. And if you're not producing the wow factor, you just don't have a lot of people following you and paying attention to you, and bouncing ideas off you and all that stuff.
you're the smelly kid. You're the smelly kid in class. Nobody wants to talk to you. Nobody wants nothing to do with you. But the smelly kid has got that frog in his pocket that he's waiting to play with after school. You know what I mean? He's ready to get out there and do what he's got to do.
No, I do not know what you mean.
You never brought the frog to school?
No.
Oh man, I brought frogs to school, snakes. I went to Catholic school too, man. That wasn't a good place to bring that stuff. But if anybody's got any questions for any of us tonight, or Spencer, please, all in caps. That was a great idea, Spencer. There's some great ideas coming tonight. But yeah, everybody. I mean, the people that are up there right now, like you said, Wes and them, Wes earned his stripes. I mean, he came from nothing and made his way up. But you're right. If people got behind, I guess he's out in the doing investigating and all that too. So,
even if we had such a thing, which is something that this community can do, if we could make a centralized bank of encounters, kind of like what the BFRO has. But most people on here are aware that the BFRO has a breakdown of encounters by state, and they freely admit on there that not all of the encounters are listed. Some of them are active investigations. I would hypothesize, not trying to get you in trouble on your podcast, buddy, but I would hypothesize that the reason why there's not as many presented to the public is because they want to keep the juicy ones for themselves. I've had quite a few people tell me, as a matter of fact, that they've submitted reports to the BFRO and they were never published. And these are pretty big name people that have said this. If we could come up with a collective bank of encounters where we could all see 100%, like I'm in Virginia. And in Virginia, if you look on the BFRO state site, there's right around 100 sightings. Now, I can tell you there's no way personally that I believe that. I think there's a lot more than that. I also think that people in Virginia, maybe it's just an East Coast thing, where they don't talk about this subject very much. They're not very open about it because, I've gone up to 100 strangers in the past while and asked them if they knew anything about Bigfoot. And, I always get the same reply. No, not really. Every once in a while, somebody will tell me that a friend of a friend had some kind of experience. But like a site where we had access to the full spectrum of encounters that are out there, that could greatly help us, and that doesn't really have to cost a lot of money. I'm fairly computer illiterate, so don't look to me for that, but somebody out there's got to be able to put that together.
Oh, it's a lot of work. Again, it's a lot of work. The production part of all this is the big part. If you could get someone to help you with production and all that, it could be done. You never know. It would be. I got a listing from somebody that I'm not supposed to talk too much about, but I have like 8,000 reports in my email right now.
Holy cow!
Of actual reports and GPS coordinates.
Yeah, that's stuff you need.
Yeah, I'm gonna figure out some way to get it back to the public with my website, and go from there. We got a question for you, Spencer. Spencer, what is the best evidence do you think you have ever found?
I mean, that's a hard one, really, because I've found tracks that I am fairly well 100% positive that they're booger tracks. But the stuff I found that I think that is most impressive to me is I found structures. If you're talking about evidence that I found, not experiences, but I've found structures that there's just absolutely no way that they were natural. And a lot of that stuff I keep to myself because, and I've said this before and I've gotten some flack about it, that we should be sharing everything. But here's my thing. If it's not going to add to the bulk of information that's out there, it's not really doing anything. If I put up pictures of some of the structures I've found, as impressive as they might be, it doesn't really tell you that much about the boogers. I mean, it doesn't really tell you, for a fact, it doesn't tell you that a booger made it, because I didn't see a booger make it. But the most impressive evidence I've found would be some tracks, definitely quite a few structures that are 100% they were manipulated by someone. And I have quite a bit of audio that I can show on the spectrograph, and you can compare it to the indigenous animals around there. And, it's nothing. It's not even close. And, so to me, like, pound for pound, audio is worth its weight in gold, because you can actually see a physical representation of that vocal signature, and you can rule out, what it isn't, which only leaves you sitting there looking at it going, well, nothing matches it. So, and on quite a few of those instances, it wasn't just me setting out the recorder, it was me standing there recording and getting to hear the stuff in real life. Whenever you get to experience one of these things, do a loud vocalization in person, I don't know of anybody that's ever been there in that position and has walked away and said, man, I wasn't sure about that. Everybody I've ever been with, whenever these things have gone off, like especially at LBL, you look at the other people and you're like, that's not normal. That's, that that's not a regular animal. I
Right.
mean, it's so incredibly loud and distinct, you know. So that
Yeah.
would be the evidence.
Yeah. Yeah. Mark does a great job with all that, putting the coyote sounds on the spectrograph and then playing there's a great idea to set it up like that. And that's another thing. Those are the ideas that are going to change everything. Got boots on the ground from Barb. Have you ever had a loss of time or had a feeling of being lost in an area when researching?
If she's asking me one time, I posted on the Beast page. It was probably, I don't know, 2 years ago, 2.5 years ago. I found what looked to be a teepee like structure at a wildlife management preserve area. There were a bunch of X's around it, there were a bunch of snaps around it. It was right on the edge of a creek. And so I started going up there more and more, progressively, started spending more time up there. And at one point, after about 4 months of going up there a couple times a week, like whenever I get off work, I go up there. And I got to say, though, the area always gave me kind of the creep vibe. And I don't really get creeped in the woods or anything, but it did make me feel a little bit uneasy. And you got to keep in mind that I typically research by myself. I mean, most of the time when I'm in the woods, I'm by myself. And I'm going further and further out back in this area. So to even get to where I found the teepee is probably a mile and a half off of the road. And then I was going progressively further and further back in behind the area where the TP was, looking for more sign because I was finding more possible stick manipulation and possible tracks up in there. And I was out there one time, and the last time that I had actually gone further and further back in there. I've been back to it since, but I haven't gone past the TP. Um, but the last time that I was out there, I was back in there probably, I don't know, probably a quarter of a mile. And when you're in the woods and you're going over, uneven terrain and there's no paths or anything, a quarter of a mile uphill and downhill and through the trees and the leaves and everything, it feels a lot longer than what it is. And I just remember feeling it was like all of a sudden, out of nowhere, I started to get woozy. And at first, I kind of paused for a second. I was like, man, did I eat something bad or whatnot? But then I almost got like this kind of like tunnel vision kind of thing. Um, it's like I could feel my heartbeat and my breathing. And I was only kind of looking right in front of me. And I just remember looking around and going, where am I? Like I'm kind of lost. I'm not that far back in here. I know it's roughly in this direction, but nothing looked familiar. Even though I had just come up in there a couple minutes before, and even though I had been in there, many times over the past several months, and I started to get a little bit panicky actually. And I started just kind of shuffling and moving down the hill in the direction that I thought I should go, that I thought was where I came in at. And I don't want to I don't want to make the story more than what it was. I don't want to give it the whole thing of, oh, I felt like there was something inside my head or there was something telling me to get out of there. There wasn't mind speak or anything like that. But I had a overwhelming sense of urgency that I needed to get my butt out of there. I don't know if it was an outside influence or whatnot, but it definitely, to me, in my own mind, it was like, I'm confused. Something's going on. Something doesn't feel right. I think I might be a little bit lost. And for some reason, I just felt I started to get a little bit panicky, and I shuffled down the hill, and I fell a couple times. But the closer I got to that little creek that I had to cross over to get in there, once I got within, I don't know, 100 yards or so of that, I could kind of think straight, and I got out of there. But I mean, whenever it was done and I got back to my truck and I was sitting there, I sat there for, I don't know, 4 or 5 minutes, just like trying to get like the fog out of my head, like being able to think straight. Still to this day, don't know exactly what it was. Don't know that I would attribute it to boogers, but that's the only time that anything like that ever happened to me.
We had the same thing happen, the same exact, just the way you described it, Larry. It happened to two of us though at the same time. We went past a structure, like came up to a structure, and then we walked like 30 feet, and we both didn't know where we were. And we've been at this place hundreds and hundreds of times and didn't know exactly where we were. But then we went down the hill a little bit farther, and then our bearings came back, and it was weird. But we went through the same thing exactly that you just described. And no voices in our heads, no nothing. And it happened to two of us at the same time. I've never told anybody that before, but that was a crazy day. There was an area at Larry's where we used to go to, and that was their area. That was the area that we felt that we should never go there, and we never went there. And the only time we got near to that area was that happened. So pretty crazy.
I've heard of enough people that have way more experience than me. I've heard them testify to how much they think the possibility of infrasound is a real thing with these creatures and beings, people, whatever you want to call them. And I could completely, if you look up what's out there, what's available on the effects of infrasound, I can completely believe that a jolt of infrasound can scramble you enough to get you into that zone where you are confused, lost, missing time. That, I mean, to me, that makes perfect sense.
And the other strange thing, Spencer, is that RF does the same thing.
Yeah.
Radio frequency gives you the same effects as infrasound. Plus makes you hot. A lot of those cases, they find them missing 411. People are taking their clothes off. They're getting overheated.
Yeah.
Infrasound's never been reported to overheat you. So another thing to look, with that meter, there's a lot of meters out there right now. You got one. Blue-Eyed Northern's got one. BF Bud's got one. They're out there, and we're going to test them as hard as we can. All right, got time for one more question before Spencer is lost into the night. Anybody got? Let's see. There was one right here. Where was it? I can remember what it was. It said it was from Papa Craig C. Have you ever been paralleled, Spencer?
Not that I know of that I would say that's what it is. I mean, I'll tell you, one time on my new land here, I recently moved into this house, and about 7 months ago, and I have almost 30 acres, and it backs up to two private hunt clubs, and then it backs up to the Blue Ridge Parkway. So there's quite a bit of land in between here and the parkway. And that's part of the reason why I wanted this place, so I can go outside and walk through the woods on my own right here at home, which makes it a lot easier on me. I wouldn't say paralleled. I would say that I was walking and I was possibly encroaching on other people's property, meandering through their land, possibly. And these hunt clubs over here, people are only in them during hunting season, so nobody's there the rest of the time. And in my mind, that would make a highly likely spot for boogers to possibly hang out for a bulk of the year, or to at least pass through. And I found other things to suggest that they are passing through this area. Well, anyway, I was walking up in there, and it was getting towards dark, right about what it is now, and I was coming back. And all at once, like I won't say 100% of the animal noise and the insect noise went away. It wasn't 100%, but it was noticeably, I was walking, I just remember going, man, it got really quiet out here, which, I mean, that's also the sign of just a predator in general being in the area. And we have quite a bit of black bear here, coyote, all that kind of stuff. Mountain lions, I've seen a mountain lion here, even if they say that Virginia doesn't have them. And I got that feeling like, there could very well be something here. Well, I kind of hurried up a little bit to get back home. Didn't even have a flashlight with me. I wasn't planning on being gone that long or anything. And I could have sworn that something made a very low guttural growl at me from not that far away. I didn't have my recorder with me. I was in the middle of walking. So, like, as I heard it, I kind of stopped, but there was still some residual sound for me walking. So I can't say for a fact that that's what it is. But I distinctly had the feeling that something was there. But as far as being paralleled, like other people describe, where you take a couple steps and you can hear it, take a couple steps and you stop and it'll take two more steps and stop. I've never had that. No.
That's honest opinion. That's the way to be. You got to be honest. Got to tell them how it happened and how it went. Well, I want to say thank you, Spencer. We're almost can't see you there. We can see your right eye.
I'm
But
sorry. I didn't
you,
even the lights on. It was going to get that.
that's right. We're going to have Spencer back on the show once his shop is set up. We're going to start doing informative shows, and what most people don't know that Spencer's like a world champion knife builder, and he's going to give us some pointers on sharpening knives, and he's made some beautiful, beautiful pieces that I've seen, and he's going to come back for that, but we'll definitely have him back on about the booger in part 2 and what's going on down his way. Again, get behind a researcher like Spencer. You got some information down West Virginia way. Give him a shout. I'll post his email address if he wants in the comments tomorrow. And so I just want to say a great big thank you for taking time out of your day and sharing it with us here at Discover Sasquatch, and everybody in the chat too.
No, thanks. And good night to everybody that tuned in. Thank you for watching. I appreciate it.
All right. Thank you so much. I will see you backstage. Ladies and gentlemen, Spencer Jamison. All right. Another end to another night. It was a great show. Spencer's a good friend of ours at Discover Sasquatch. He is one of the most knowledgeable person I've ever met in the subject, and he's a great guy, great all-around guy, and do anything for you too, and that means a lot. I just want to say thank you to everybody in the chat for keeping it nice and cool tonight. Again, get behind a researcher. Even if it's information, send it their way. If they're selling a T-shirt, buy a T-shirt from them. They only make $3 off a T-shirt or a hat or anything, or even a piece of equipment. You got an old camera that you want to get rid of, contact them. Say, hey, you guys interested in this camera? Anything. Just, help out these guys that got boots on the ground. They're out in the woods, because every little bit helps. And as my friend Larry always says, get in the woods, people.